Amazing. Hello, hello, my friends. Jola Pypno-Crapanzano here with Coaching Journey with Jola interview series. You know, I always take you on a journey somewhere. And how about in this lockdown, friends? How about this? I'm taking you today to Hawaii. Hello there, my beautiful friend from Maui, Hawaii, Kai Alday. How are you, Kai?
Hi, aloha.
Aloha, there you go. How could I forget?
I had to say it.
Of course you had to. Can I tell you that Hawaii, on the list of close to 70 countries I visited so far, is still literally almost on top there? It's like you live in paradise, girlfriend. How special. But we're not
Yes,
going to
I'm
talk.
very, very fortunate.
Yeah, but we're not gonna really talk travel. I want to welcome everyone on Facebook. Today I'm gonna behave like a good girl. Let's check if we have any guests joining us on Facebook Live, because Yola sometimes is really not very efficient with that. We're gonna welcome everybody who's joining us live and confirm that we are actually live. And yes, we are beautiful. We have actually 4 peeps watching us. How fantastic. Guys, if you could drop on the bottom where you're joining us from, if you go, you know, what's your names and what's not, I have a super amazing treat for you. So Kai is a strategy, business, success, momentum coach. She is a non-nonsense, how should I put it? A girl that will tell you how it is, okay? And if you are about to pivot your business, if you're about to build a new business, I got you a perfect person. But before we go and dive deep in all of this, I want to say one more time, thank you for taking your time, Kai, being here with me today. And I want to ask you how you're doing in Hawaii. How is the situation there right now?
It is good. I mean, considering that we're on an island, it's really good. It was scary, obviously, in the beginning because most of our businesses are tourist-based. So a lot of businesses have had to recalibrate and figure out what's going on during this time. So I think that's been really hard, the economy. But other than that, I mean, you know, we're very fortunate because it's not snowing over here. We don't have crazy weather. So we can at least go sit out in our yard and get some sun. And, you know, so we're fortunate in that sense.
Yeah. But like from the pandemic point of view, so the hotels are closed, or they still operating right now?
They are closed. I think there are a couple that might be open, but there's open for specific things. Mm-hmm. But as far as like the tourists, they're trying to keep them from coming. So they're not supposed to even be coming in. Although I know that there are still people coming in. They would just be probably renting a house versus staying in a hotel. So.
Mm-hmm. I understand. Yeah, I'm hearing that some places are opening, some businesses. It's like, you know, some states starting opening for business. Well, where I am on East Coast, New Jersey, New York, we are unfortunately still pretty deep in this whole thing that no one knows anything. But anyhow, we're not talking about us, we're talking about you. And so going with that, my dear Kai and I, we met a couple of years ago through some coaching connections, and we got to work together, and it was awesome. I really got to like this girl for, like I said, this intelligent, non-nonsense approach to life. She has this way of saying, you know, I'll tell you how it is. And I would expect the same from you, right, Kai?
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
So I usually ask my guest first this question: when was the first time in your life that you actually felt this deep need inside that you wanted to help people, whatever that was at that time?
I would say that, gosh, that's a deep question for the first question. Let's see. So I would say I've always felt that way. Since I was a kid. And I would say that I've always wanted to help people because as a kid, I had a interesting upbringing. So I moved from home to home with different people. And they were all very loving. And so I think in them caring for me, it made me care about other people and wanting to help people. And as I got older, I come from a family of entrepreneurs, but as I got older, you know, I wanted to join world peace and do all the things and be in Peace Corps and all this stuff. And my mom all along the way was like, you know, we're very Asian. So she was like, you're going to college. And I was like, no, I'm going to join the Peace Corps, Mom. I got to help people. And she's like, no. And so then I tried to join the Army, and I was still 17 when I went away to college. So I tried to join the Army so I could get a scholarship and all this stuff, right? And then my mom was like, no, I will do whatever it takes for you to just get an education. And, you know, so she was a really good mom in that sense. You know, as a kid, I think you like see the world through very different eyes, and your parents are like, I know how hard life can be and I need to equip you. And so I went the way she told me to. And it's funny that I never became an entrepreneur sooner. And I think it was because when I watched my family, all of them worked really, really hard. Yeah. And I believe in hard work, except I didn't want to kill myself to create like a business or, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
so
absolutely.
So I was like, I'm just going to do nonprofit. And then when I got out of the nonprofit, I went into corporate. And in corporate, I was like, okay, this is where I'm going to reach success and become a CEO. And, you know, I'm very ambitious, right? And that is where entrepreneurship all of a sudden was like a choice now. It was an option. And it wasn't until I was sitting at my desk and I just had my baby. I was probably in corporate. I went into corporate 4 months pregnant. I had 2 kids while I was in corporate. And while I was sitting there with my second kid, with a babysitter, I was on my lunch break and I turned on my phone. I'm checking my email and I see an email from the babysitter. And she sent me a video of my daughter's first step. And this was the second time I was going through it. I had missed everything with the first one. And now I realized that I was doing the same thing all over again.
Heartache, right? Immediately that, because I should have, just to break this for a second, I should have actually introduced this from the beginning that Kai has close to 20 years experience going from that nonprofit to corporate and then even working in a family business where her mom runs. And, you know, so she learned not just the business from corporate. She learned how to be a, you know, leader from heart. And then she learned the real hard work from the working the family business. So she got it all, right? And she had choices. She could have decided. But yet in that moment, when you said it, it just came so close to my heart. I also missed a lot of these moments with my children working in corporate, you know, for years. And I know exactly when I was going sometimes to work and I would say to my son being with a babysitter, bye baby, and he would like ignoring me going to her. That heartache was crazy. So I feel for you and I totally understand. And I'm sure a lot of people watching this can relate to this. So the message comes in and you felt and something changed, right?
Yeah. And so that was the moment where the idea of being an entrepreneur all of a sudden became available to me, even though I had seen it my whole life. But it was the first time where I thought, you know what? I think I want to explore this and what it looks like. Because I realized because I was the whole time looking for different jobs, and I realized every time I looked at a different job, it was the same problem, right? I was still going to have to answer to somebody. I was still going to have to work whatever hours. Nothing had changed. And so I was like, well, how do I change my situation so I'm getting what I want out of it? And how do I really kind of reach into what I'm good at so that I enjoy my work? Right? Because that's where we are, right? We do what we have to do to make the paycheck, to climb the ladder, even if it's not necessarily the thing that we love to do. But because we have big ambitions, or I think as a mom, especially as a parent, a mom or a father, you do things for your kids with the best of intentions. And sometimes those intentions get in the way of actually being there for your kids. Yeah. You know, and that's what I came to realize in all of this. I was sitting there and I was like, you know, crying at lunch in the lunchroom. And I was like, this is not what I wanted for them. And still, it took me probably 2 or 3 more years before I finally left corporate. So at that time, I still couldn't leave, even though I was unhappy, even though I was missing out on my kid's life, even though I was probably the grumpiest wife ever. I just couldn't leave because it was stability, right? It was a paycheck. I had worked so hard to get to where I was. Mm-hmm. How could I give that up? Like, how could I have put in this much time to walk away now? And so that's when I realized there was kind of a little bit of the ego, right? I'm right here. I'm almost where I want to be. I can't walk away now. And then my mom got sick. And they didn't know what was wrong with her and all this stuff. And so that was my moment where I realized like God was giving me a sign, and he was like, either you can stay in it, or I'm giving you an easy out, that because I'm so loyal too, right? So I built a family in this corporation, and it was hard to turn my back on them.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, the corporate family or your actual family.
Right.
And it took me 6 months to decide. I mean, I know which one's more important to me, and yet it took me 6 months to finally be like, okay, I got to leave and help with the family business.
Yes.
But when I left and I started helping in the family business, all of a sudden I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do my business at the same time, and I'm going to make this happen. And so that's exactly what I started to do. I opened up my business, not knowing what I was doing, even though I knew business, but opening a business and running one are two completely different skill sets that I had no idea.
Then she's slowly, my friends, getting into her area of genius, because she is brilliant, and at helping people who are just starting that where she was then. Like, she's talking to herself from that time when you're so lost, when you don't know what the hell you're doing, and you're like, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and let me just try this, and then just see if it sticks to the wall. Let me throw this macaroni at that wall. Maybe that wallpaper is more sticky, and it's just nothing freaking works, right? And you're like lost. And that's where she was. And I know this from, because we know each other. I know she invested heavily in her own development, and so did I. And we both did this work. And that's what I would try to teach people, that yes, you can go straight to where you want to go, or you can go with many, many different detours, right? But back to Kai's story. Yes. So fascinating. I'm just loving to, and I just want to make sure that I say to people, thank you very, very much for watching us, guys. Drop the questions if you have anything in the chat box. We'll be very happy to answer at the end.
Yes, definitely. So at that point, I think it was about 2 months in, I had started my business. I was working at the restaurant as well. And I was working the same amount of hours I was in corporate. And those of you who are in corporate, especially in middle management and at the top, you understand that's a lot of hours, right? You're a salaried employee. You can work as many hours as they need. And when you're trying to climb, you do whatever you have to. And that was exactly what happened. And then I translated that into my personal life when I left, because I was so used to working those hours. I was like, okay, well, I might as well keep going. Let's do the same thing. And it was about 2 months in, and I was sitting in my car, and I was on my way to pick up my kids, and I had like a 10-minute breather before I, was going to drive up the mountain to pick them up. And so I'm sitting there, and I realized how happy I was. I wasn't rich. I still had bills to pay. I was still in debt. I was still working 2 jobs, working a ton of hours, and I was happy. And it was this moment of like, why am I happy right now? And I realized that I was finally in alignment with what I wanted. And that was success. That was the moment that I realized that success was not the corner office. It wasn't making a certain amount of money. It wasn't any of the things. And it was all about the journey.
Yes.
And it was so eye-opening for me, because I was like, I thought that I would have to get there before I was finally happy, right? And I realized how happy I was. And I was still only hanging out with my kids maybe 2-3 hours a day.
Yeah.
But I was in the car with them. I was dropping them off at school, which I had never done.
Right.
I was picking them up, which I had never done.
To know each other, correct? That was probably the time we got to know each other. And I want to also bring something very important, because Kai just used a keyword, a hashtag success, that later on in life that I need to bring it up, because that's a piece of what I want to point out to you guys, how important certain experiences in life are in creating our own path, business, whatever we do. So did you hear when she says success? Yes. And guess what? So I don't know if you caught this when I introduced her. Her name is Kai Alday. You can say Alday, Alday, whatever. So current business that Kai is in is actually called Success all day. I love it. I love it so much. And I believe that maybe just then it was like this little seed that was planted in your heart that you knew what the beginning of the success looked like, right? Because at that time you called yourself success business confidant, right? Which was also a very catchy, beautiful name. But what you evolved into, I'm so just pleased. So now you know you're happy in your heart. And then what happened? Just give us more.
So then I think it just all started going. So I was in corporate for 2 years trying to build my business until I left. And then I had this experience. So the whole time I was in corporate, I would come home at night and I would just take that course or have the coaching call or whatever it was for 2 years. And then I finally leave and I'm free to kind of create in a way my own schedule. And then I'm doing all the things, right? And I am starting to realize that I'm DIYing all of it. And I'm like, okay, this is like, I've just got to take that risk and invest myself, because you only know what you know. Like, even when you Google, I can only Google what I know to ask about.
Right.
But because I didn't know anything, I'm only asking the same questions and I'm not able to solve my problem. So I finally invested in a coach and I finally met Jola. And that's when we met, because we were both investing in ourselves. And we met at CHPC, and it was amazing. It was such a great time. And that's literally, I don't think I met you there. I think I met you in the group, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Later on. Yeah. But it all just shows that it's a journey, necessary journey to bring us where we are in life. Like I'm still evolving, and it's a constant process of getting better and better and getting educated and finding these little things that keeps us happy and fulfilled and engaged. And listen, I keep saying that the stuff that I've been putting in my head, it's almost like I don't even know how much more space in my brain is right now, and it is still getting more, right? This is amazing. But it's almost like a series of synchronicities, almost, that one leads to another, and then at the end of it, the good stuff is happening, and you find your way to now having this thriving business. I didn't mention that Kai also has a fantastic podcast, which we'll be talking about. It's called The Same Way, Success All Day. And I would like to also tell people about the group that you run, because that's for women who would maybe be interested to learn from you in the future. That's a great community to start in, right? To just get the bearings, what's going on. And maybe from there, you can lure them into your practice.
Yes, join us, please. But I think, so one of the things that you just said is, it's like a synchronicity, right? One thing happens and the next thing. And here's the thing about that is, and I don't know if you experienced this too before you really kind of invested in yourself and took that risk, is a lot of times we hope, right? We hope that what we're doing is going to give us what we want. I hope that when I climb the corporate ladder, I make enough money to give me enough time to spend with my kids. It's very circuitous, I guess you could say. We have this hope that what we're doing will give us eventually the thing that will make us happy.
Right.
And what I realized is that I have to create that happy. Like, it's not up to anybody else. It's not in the hands of someone else. Like, I had to actually take action. And the thing that I talk about a lot is success and momentum. And for me, when you look at momentum, essentially what the definition is that once something is moving, momentum can be built, but it has to be moving first.
Yes.
Right? And so I feel like
the first step, all that. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So when we talk about synchronicity, it's also because we took that step. Yeah. So, and by step, I don't mean I just read a book. I mean, I read a book, I put into action. I mean, I knew I needed help, I got help. And so we're constantly taking a step, and eventually all of those steps are like an avalanche, right? Like the snowball effect that's rolling down the mountain. And that's essentially what it was for me. It was like, so I started with the business confidant. I was a leadership coach. I worked in the corporate world, and that just was a natural development. But as I took action, I started to realize what actually felt good, where I was actually gifted and where my genius was. But I wouldn't have known had I never took a step. So, I mean, I took steps in all the wrong ways, but every time I took a step in the wrong way, it
You learn
was just
something.
realigning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, you know, again, we can beat ourselves up for mistakes we made in the past. And yet, why not to flip it? Oh, what did I learn from that? And, you know, that's the whole purpose. Like, stop people go after you and be like, oh my goodness, I wasted my life. No, you didn't. Regardless what happened, you learned. And just the decision that you are at this point in your life is a result of everything that happened prior. So that's so awesome. And so let's just now talk a little bit about your area of genius, because this is a very, it's like, in business, people that you help with, you always are very specific, right? You have this, you call it roadmap. You try to take them through certain steps, certain strategies that will help them. So, like, if you help, let's say you have someone coming to you, what kind of questions you would ask them to basically, you know, decide if they are a good fit for you?
Ooh, decide if they're a good fit for me. Typically it's through the conversation. So usually it's asking like, what are they trying to accomplish? So I think there are different kinds of people, but typically the people who come to me, there's two types. There's the person who wants to build a business because they want to make money. And then there's a person who wants to build a business because they want to make a life. Now, usually that's a distinguishing factor, and I always gravitate towards the person who wants to make a life.
And you actually say it so beautifully: make money and make a life, and make a life while you're at it, right? So good. I love it so much.
And I think, you know, in my experience, I've spoken to so many entrepreneurs just out of curiosity, just constantly asking people, well, you know, where are you and how did you get here? And just constantly so hungry to know. And every time I speak to entrepreneurs, specifically now who've been in business for like 20 plus years, I see a reoccurring theme. And that is that they hustle until they got to a point where now they have to sell their business. And then I always ask, well, why don't you just bring somebody in, or why don't you become an absentee manager? And they're always like, well, my customers only want me, or it would never work. And it isn't that it wouldn't work. It's that they have literally built a business based off of a vague idea of success, meaning success is a dollar mark or whatever that looks like. And there's nothing wrong with that. But because they didn't think about how do I want my life to look, they didn't actually create that life along the way. Mm-hmm. So now they created money. So they created an ATM, but they didn't create their life.
Yes.
And now they want to enjoy their life, and they haven't created a business that supports that. So for me, it's like all of us can make money, but not everyone can create a life along the way, because that takes intentionality.
Yes, I remember you used this. You use this comparison to, you may get to your destination, but you're alone. And that's just like in high performance, we say it's like, you know, succeeding with in all areas of your life. But if you just do business and then your health and your relationship in like garbage, then that means nothing. So it has to be about that balance, right? And if you have the destination when you're heading, and if you can have everything and everybody who matters to you with you, to celebrate you, to be with you while you reach that mark, it's the most beautiful thing. And I think that's what you try to help people with, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think you have to know that that's what you want if you want to create it. Right. So I can tell somebody who comes to me and they want help, like, hey, can you help me create my business, build my business? Yeah, sure, I can. But the formula that I use to build a business is not going to be like, okay, what's your sales? I do that after, but I always start off with, what is your dream? Because that to me is the most important. Like, that literally will tell you where the bullseye is. So it's not just this, it's like, where is that? And for people who just want to make money, to them, this is fluff. They don't want to do it.
Did you find how interesting this is, this question from coaching point of view? When you ask people what they want, they have such a hard time sometimes answer the question. They can give you a whole long list of what they don't want. And yet, if you ask them what you really, 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 really want, it's like, let me think about it. Really? You want to think about it? That should be the first thing on your mind.
It's true though. I mean, when you get specific, so if you ask somebody like, what do you want? And they're like, oh, I want a successful business. And then you ask, well, what does that mean? They're just like, make good money? Like, but no, there's more to that, right? Like, what do you want? Like, so if we say that this is what you want, what's happening along the way? And then you start to think about, just like we learned in coaching, right? You have to start thinking about, what do you want your lifestyle to look like? What's like spiritually, what would you say is a 10 for you? What would your daily practice be? Financially, where would you be? In the community, how would you be? Because we're all a whole person. And yet when we create a business, we think that it's just one piece of ourselves. But it's all of us showing up at business. So if I'm having a hard day at home or my life is horrible, I'm probably going to show that at work. I'm not going to be performing at my best. I'm going to have a bad attitude. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing at home. So if my business is plummeting or I just don't feel fulfilled, when I come home, it's the same thing. You're going to experience that. So I think in coaching, when we talk about coaching, coaching is holistic. Whether you're a business coach, a life coach, or whatever it is, everything matters. They're all interconnected. And that's how you know you have a good coach, is because they understand, like, I can't just fix your love life because there's other stuff that's creating this chaos. So we've got to work on all levels. And that for me is the same thing. Like if somebody ever only wants to talk business, then I'm like, hey, I love you, but let me recommend you to somebody else because I'm not that person for you.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm sure you have the same thing.
Exactly what I said before. She will lovingly point immediately that, not everything is for everybody and not everybody is for everybody. And that's really amazing. As you guys noticed, I did not throw out all of her accomplishments up front. I'm dripping them slowly throughout this interview. I'm doing this for a reason with Kai, because Kai is one of the people that she believes that you shouldn't be introducing your skills in a way like, oh, this is my label, look how wonderful I am, and then tell them what you do. She first tell people how she can help them, and then obviously what she does comes through it. And so I should add now that we're a little bit deeper in, like I said, I already mentioned the podcast, which I want to talk about, by the way, in a bit more. But Kai also is a motivational speaker. Kai, can you tell us how that came to play? I remember a couple of years ago when we met first time, you were just starting, we're preparing to your first summit, and you were so excited about it. And I know it was success. And after that, you had a couple more amazing appearances. So how is that going for you?
Oh, I mean, well, now it's at a standstill, but now it's kind of transitioned virtually. So
online, correct. Yes.
So it's awesome. I love it. I mean, when you go into a room and you get to be in front of people, it's just a whole different energy, and that I love that. And then after being able to have a conversation with them, that's even amazing. So right now it's virtual, so it's not necessarily like a conversation, but people will email me, and that just lights me up to be able to have, first of all, you have the courage to email me, because a lot of people won't do it, because I'll be like, just email me, ask me, do whatever, because had I had that courage a long time ago, I wish that somebody would have responded back. So whenever somebody comes up to me after speaking or somebody emails me, it's like, it just lights me up, because to create impact in somebody's life on a grander scale, I'm not even getting paid from them, right, to speak. I just get to show up and they get to receive. And there's something so beautiful about that they're just there to learn.
Yes.
And I think as somebody who is a lifelong student, I just want to honor them and show up the best that I can. Now, it's been a journey. Like, it hasn't always been easy. That very first time when you were like, we were talking through it, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. It was like nerve-wracking to say the
And look
least.
at yourself now. I mean, it's so like I can tell you, with each of my guests, I always try to find those levels of similarities, those elements that we have in common. And I completely understood the moment, because, I always say that to people, like, look at me, like in November of last year, to go live on Facebook was like, I was paralyzed. I couldn't even imagine to, like, I guess I did couple, but it was like, re-recorded videos and post, oh, let me just re-record it. And it was all about me, 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 me. It's not about it. It's about the message you have, about what you share. And once you cleared it out of your head, it's over and done. And look at me doing episode number 35 of Coaching Journey with Yola. I'm so proud of myself. You know, and then it was the same for you, going for the first speech. And it was just like, I felt you. You were so excited about it. And I admired you. I'm like, wow, she's gonna talk on a stage, like, wow, you know. And it's just like, it's so good. It's like, and therefore I consider this, you know, we gotta make these big audacious dreams, go after them, you know. Start with something small. Start with a freaking Facebook Live. I talked to the friend the other day. We were she produced some program, and I said to her, you know, how amazing. It's not perfect, but it's perfect for a lot of people. A lot of people would not be able to even get where you are right now. So amazing, fantastic.
Yes, yes. We were actually just talking about that in my group. We're talking about how mindset trumps skill set every time, in the sense that we're all waiting to be really good at something before we do it. And really, the people, you ever watch somebody and they're doing exactly what you're doing, but they're not as good as you are? Let's be all honest. We've all met at least one person doing it, but they've got like 1 million followers and they're doing, and you're sitting there like,
what's wrong with the picture?
Yeah. And it's because in their mind, they didn't stop themselves. Yep. They just went for it. Now, for the rest of us perfectionists and overthinkers, we're over here like, I got to get my MBA. I got to go get my doctoral degree. We got to do all these things until we do. And all the while, all these people who
are doing what's necessary.
Yes, exactly. And they're learning along the way, but we're like, I want to learn first and then I'll show up.
Exactly. And I'm the first one to raise my hand. Like, I felt, even up until today, I still felt, and listen, I don't regret anything I learned because I love it. Like yourself, I am a lifestyle student. I just love learning. This is my passion. I love it. But the thing is, like, I tell myself, you need to know these things. Truly, I do not. It's just that I told myself is that I'm not as much of a perfectionist as I used to be, but it's hard to just completely get it out of your system, right? So let's talk about one accomplishment of Kai that I admire deeply. And I'll be honest that when I first saw you doing this, by the way, when did you start your podcast, which is again called Success Alday? When was that? When did it start? Because you're on a season 2 now, right? Already? Or season 3?
Yes. Well, I'm going into season 3. So we have a break right now, and then season 3 starts June. So, gosh, I guess it'll be 3 years because it's taking a break every year. So yeah, season 3.
So the thing is that, think about it, guys, the podcast, right? It's something that you all can create if you have that need in you, but how many of you really do, right? Not that many. And I heard amazing stat the other day. I think it was, I don't know, it was Dean Graciosi or someone else was talking about it, how YouTubers is millions of them. You know, how many people is on Facebook? And podcasters, this is still that niche that if you get into, people are listening on the go, gyms, in the cars, commuting, whatever, right? And so you can get to people's ears in such an intimate way. So please tell us about this, if you don't mind, how one can start a podcast, because I'm sure that could be a valuable information for people. And then give maybe some information, like how would you go about this, if someone wants to do that?
Ooh, so let's see. I did the podcast, I guess. I keep thinking 3. It's 3 seasons, but it's been 1.5 years, maybe 2 years now. And I did it because, like you, it was like one of those fears, right? I knew that I wanted to get my message out, but I didn't know how. And I started to try to do videos, but because I was so like self-conscious and like perfectionist, it would take me forever to do a video because I would rewind, do it again, edit, and I just I was like, okay.
Hello.
I was like, okay. Yes. And so I was like, well, I love podcasts. I'm a huge podcast fan. So I'm like, why am I trying to do all this other stuff when my first love is podcasts? I listen to it in the car. That's how I learn. I listen to Audible books. Like everything is audio for me because I have 3 kids and you're just constantly going. So the moment I have some time to myself, whether it's in the shower or driving, I have a podcast or a book that's playing. And so for me, that was just the natural, like, okay, let's try this.
Yeah.
And that was when it was in the beginning when Anchor.fm came out, and it was so easy to do. It was just like, okay, just get on your phone, download the app and record and then press publish. I was like, okay, I can do this. So at first it's like, you got to get rid of all the barriers, right? Because for me, in my mind, doing a YouTube video, all I could think about was, do I have a good enough camera? Do I have great light? Like I was creating more barriers than I needed to. And then when I saw the Anchor app, I was like, well, now I have no excuse.
That's right. That's right, girl.
and then, I mean, I'm over here like, I want to be a speaker, so I need to start practicing. And that's literally what it all came down to. Like, I want to spread this message. I want people to know that there is more to success than just reaching a goal. And how do I do that en masse? Right? And that's where the podcast was born. So I just started talking on there in the beginning. If you listen now to the beginning episodes, it's like, I can't even listen.
And you know what? And can I tell you something? And again, it's cleasy that you said it because it's important for people to know it. I guarantee you, because I happened to listen to the first ones, okay? I was like, literally your biggest fan. And I loved it when you brought your hubby in it and you were both like having a ball. And I love the intros. And I like, what you're talking about is just still you criticizing yourself. It was amazing from day one. It's just that you now know more and now you look at this with a different light, right? But all it is take your freaking phone, find the app, and I have it, believe it, people, because I will join Kai on this journey because I already recorded a couple of my own podcasts, which are public. I don't tell anybody about it. So I'm a secret podcaster. But yeah, this is the thing. Like, you are great at this. Amazing. With your sense of humor, with your like direct approach, with your like, I call like a quirky little approach to life. Like, you don't like take a shit from people ever. Like, I love it so much. So, what do you talk to people in this podcast? Just if you, is it life? Is it business advice? What is it? If people, by the way, it's Alday title, right? So people can find you on Spotify, people can find you on Stitcher, right? On any kind of provider.
On iTunes,
iTunes, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I talk about life and business because, as I said earlier, they're one and the same for me. So when I first started my journey coaching, I would only do business, right? I'm a leadership coach, et cetera, et cetera. And then I realized that a lot of the people who I was coaching, especially with leadership issues, that it was a very personal issue. It wasn't the business that was the problem. It was them themselves. Not that they're the problem, but they were having an internal problem, an internal battle. And that's when I realized that I needed to expand beyond just teaching business because I couldn't cure the business without curing the personal life. And so that's where the podcast, after I figured that out, that's where I started the podcast. So I think the first season was specifically a lot about life. Like, I would talk about business, but a lot of it was like being your best self, creating your own success. And then the second one was specifically about business. And it always ties together, but there's always a different approach. And then the third season is going to be a little bit of both. And so it's never live. Now, if it's an interview, I will do it on Zoom and then I download it and I don't edit. So if I do a podcast and you're listening to it, you're going to hear everything. Like when I
don't edit. Whatever it is, it's going to go out there on YouTube. Yeah. That's how I roll, baby. I mean, listen, we're all human. Everybody can say something wrong. We can forget the word. We can just say something completely nonsense. I try not to re-listen to these things, whatever. But after all, it's authentic. And that's all it matters, right?
Yes,
I love the very good productions. I love when everything is perfectly timed and this comes in the sound and this and letters and awesome. Maybe one day, but for now, that's what it is. That's what you get.
Exactly. Yes. Just start, because where we start is not where we end up. but we can't get better unless we actually do something, right? So that is for me, like if anyone's thinking about creating a podcast, just do it. And I think for everyone who's thinking about it, the most important thing is to understand what is like, just like creating a business, what is the end goal for the person listening? Because when you know what you want them to get out of it, now it's so much easier to figure out, who do I interview? What do we talk about? Where do I go with this journey? But if I don't know what I want them to get out of it, then it's going to be a hodgepodge of stuff. And then it's hard for the person to know, is this for me? Because on episode 1, it felt good. And then episode 3 was like, what the heck are we doing? And then episode 5 was back to feeling good. So you really got to know, where are you trying to take them?
Yeah.
And then that's what happens along the way, is how do I get you here? That's what every episode is about.
Yeah, fantastic. And you see, guys, what she just did? She just gave like a little a roadmap to this podcasting business, but it goes for everything. Because that was at one point a question I asked myself. And obviously I'm still in it. Like I said, it's the beginning stages, only a couple of, 30 episodes or so. So I'm nowhere, close to being experienced in it. But this is exactly where I'm getting in my questions. Like I'm starting to be more selective in my hands. I'm still talking to coaches and thought leaders and but I will be also narrowing my guests, because that's exactly what you're talking about. You're starting to be more selective with things that appeal more to you and your audience. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and the same thing is true with your guests. Like when I first started interviewing people, number one, it was because I didn't want to have to do every interview by myself. And then number 2, it was because like I just wanted to bring somebody else's experience on. So I would be like, oh, you have a business, let's talk, right? Now I'm like, okay, if you're going to come on, this is what I want. Here are the, you got to be here to give to my audience. So now you're creating standards, right? Because you still are trying to build that experience for your audience.
Exactly.
And then you can be very clear with the guests, like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And if that's okay with you, like, let's move forward. But before then, it was just like, you want to be on my show? Okay, let's go.
Oh my God, I love it. Yeah, this is the story of the beginning. And you know what? As Brendan teaches us, it's sometimes a hot mess. I mean, it's hot mess. You do oh my God, it's just crazy. And it doesn't matter, because in the long run, only people who judge you, those are the people who actually admire you deeply somewhere in the bottom of the heart,
Yes.
Because not for what you did, but for the courage that you had. And that's the piece, because maybe you're not doing anything that they really care about, but the courage that you had to make that first step. Well, Kai, this was a true pleasure, but I would like you to tell us maybe, what are your social media handles and places where people can find you if they would love to learn more about you? The group on Facebook, the fantastic resource for women, not only, right? You don't work just with women, or do you?
In the group is only women, but no, I work with men as well, just not the group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so your website, your Facebook, Instagram handles.
So you can find me everywhere, the podcast, Instagram, Facebook, all at Success Alday. Same thing on LinkedIn is at Success Alday. I make it easy. And Alday is spelled with 1 L. So it's Alday, which is my last name.
Exactly.
And then,
oh my God.
Yes.
When she rebranded, I said she nailed it. Listen, maybe one day I'll come for business advice to you. How can you make a Pypno-Crapanzano to that sort of title? And you see, it doesn't work with everybody. So I created Coaching Journey with Jola. Jola is a catchy name. Journey and coaching is me. Let's go.
No, I feel like, YOLO and Yola, like there's got to be something that you can work with right there,
Exactly. Kai, listen, thank you so very much for taking time and popping in on the show. I'm just going to double check. We don't have any questions. I'm sure if people want to know something, they can find you or me and ask those questions. I want to wish you a very happy Mother's Day and enjoy it with your beautiful daughters. And, you know, stay
Oh, thank
safe.
you. You too.
Stay safe and healthy, and I truly hope, you know, like I said, Hawaii is still that place that I know I will. I try not to go back to the same places in my life because life is too short and there's not that, you know, I don't even know there's enough time to see them all. But Hawaii is definitely the one place that I would love to come back, and when I do, I'll knock at your door. It was so,
I'll be waiting.
so fantastic. And the same goes for you, my love. If you ever pop in on the East Coast, please feel free. My house is open for you anytime, and I'd love to have you here. It was
yes, thank you so much for having me. And thank you guys for watching. I so appreciate you spending this time with us. Yeah. And Yola, she's amazing. So she's probably not going to say that about herself. So I feel like I should just tell you. She's amazing. So thank you so much, Yola.
Thank you, Kai. And like I said, stay safe and healthy, and the best of luck with success all day. Ciao.
Thank you.